The Newsreader has officially returned to BBC iPlayer, and this time, it's not just another season. It's the grand finale, the third and final chapter of a series that critics have already called one of the best dramas of the decade. For anyone who's been following since the beginning, this moment feels huge. And if you're new to it, you're about to see why this show has earned such a passionate following around the world. At its heart, The Newsreader is more than just a period drama. Yes, it's set in the 1980s, with all the fashion, the music, and the political shifts of that era, but it's also a razor-sharp look at the people behind the headlines. On the surface, it's about television news, but what keeps audiences glued is the complicated, very human story of Helen, Norville, and Dale Jennings. She's the ambitious and groundbreaking anchorwoman, the first female face of the news at 6, while he's the eager young reporter trying to carve out his own path. Together, they navigate ambition, rivalry, romance, and the kind of backstage drama that makes you realize just how much pressure sits behind those evening broadcasts. Seasons 1 and 2 made an instant impression. Not only did critics rave about the storytelling, but both seasons achieved something incredibly rare: back-to-back perfect scores of 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's almost unheard of. It showed that this wasn't just another series about newsroom politics. It was something more, an authentic and emotionally charged drama that resonated far beyond Australia, making waves internationally and eventually landing on BBC iPlayer for UK audiences. Now, with Season 3, the timeline has jumped forward to 1989, the edge of a new decade, and you can feel that this isn't just another continuation, it's the beginning of the end. The creators have been very clear about that. Torv herself explained in an interview that this story was always planned as a 3-act play. In her words, it was never about stretching it out endlessly or dragging the characters through unnecessary arcs just to keep it going. It was about telling a story with intention, with a beginning, middle, and end. Writer Michael Lucas echoed the same point. From the very first season, he says, they envisioned the Newsreader as a 3-part saga. This final act, according to him, was designed to be the emotional conclusion, a cathartic closing chapter not just for Helen and Dale, but for the entire ensemble of characters that fans have come to know. He even said that when audiences watch Season 3, it will be immediately clear that the show was heading here all along. Nothing feels accidental. It's a story that knew where it was going from day one. But of course, with such a strong legacy behind it, Season 3 has a lot to live up to. And the early reviews reveal something interesting. The Age called the final season consistently compelling and even doubled down on its original claim that this is one of the best dramas of the decade. That's incredibly high praise. But not every critic felt the same spark. The Guardian admitted that while the show remains well acted and the characters are still strong, something about the final stretch feels a little less electric. They argued that some of the energy and shine that defined the earlier seasons has dimmed slightly. And then there's the rolling tape, which describes Season 3 as bittersweet. On one hand, they loved how certain endings felt truly earned, like the kind of storytelling payoffs that only come when writers know exactly where they're heading. On the other hand, they pointed out that a few of the dynamics and relationships that once made the show so riveting seemed to take a back seat this time. Still, even with mixed reviews, the overall consensus is clear: The Newsreader has been one of the defining dramas of its time. And maybe that's what makes this final season so fascinating, because it's not just about tying up storylines, it's about showing how much television itself and the world behind it was changing by the end of the 1980s. Remember, this was a time when the media landscape was shifting fast. Commercial TV was becoming bigger, more competitive, and the role of newsreaders was under intense scrutiny. Behind the polished delivery on camera, there were egos, conflicts, and personal struggles that the public never saw. And that's what this show has always captured so well: the humanity behind the headlines. Torv's performance as Helen Norville has been a huge part of that. From the very first episode, she turned Helen into more than just a character. She made her a symbol of ambition, resilience, and vulnerability. You see her fighting for respect in a male-dominated newsroom, trying to balance her professional image with her private battles, and navigating the constant judgment of being the first woman in that position. Sam Reid's Dale Jennings adds another layer to the story. His journey, from being a nervous junior reporter to standing beside Helen at the anchor desk, mirrors not just personal growth but also the changing dynamics of the newsroom itself. Their chemistry, sometimes supportive, sometimes tense, has kept viewers emotionally invested all the way through. And now, as the story closes in 1989, there's a poetic sense of timing. The 80s were ending, journalism was evolving, and so were Helen and Dale. Ending the show here, at this precise cultural moment, feels deliberate. It's not just the conclusion of their personal arcs, it's the conclusion of an era. That's what makes Season 3 such a must-watch. It's not about whether critics think it's slightly better or slightly worse than what came before. It's about witnessing how a meticulously planned story finally comes full circle. circle. Whether you've been here since episode 1 or you're just discovering it now on BBC iPlayer, this final season gives you the rare experience of watching a show that knows exactly how it wants to end. Because here's the truth, most television series don't get that luxury. They get cancelled unexpectedly, they drag on too long, or they stumble in their final season trying to rush an ending that wasn't really planned. The Newsreader is different. From the very beginning, the team behind it promised a complete 3-act saga and they delivered. So, whether you agree with the critics or not, what's undeniable is this: the Newsreader will be remembered as one of the rare shows that set its own course and followed it through to the very end. And that's part of why people are still talking about it today. It's not just the end of a drama, it's the end of a carefully constructed story. One that started in the early 80s, brought us into the chaos and ambition of newsroom life, introduced us to characters that felt real, and now, finally, brings everything to a close in 1989. The cameras may stop rolling, but the impact of the Newsreader is going to stay with audiences for a long time.